everything is just so beautiful. I keep saying like a painting. This movie is like a painting, and everything just seems to make sense in it.
Hi, I'm Luke.
And I'm Becca, and we're talking about movies like we know stuff.
Hey everyone. So we just got done watching Cyrano, not for the first time, but rewatching it, exactly. And we figured because it is a love story that we would do this around Valentine's Day. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good movie to watch on Valentine's Day, but there is a love aspect to this movie, so the theming is there. But we're going to start off here by having Becca here give us a synopsis of the movie, and then we'll move into our spoiler-free thoughts on the movie. After that, we'll let you guys know about the spoilers coming, and then if you don't want to see them, you can click away, and we'll move into our full breadth spoiler thoughts for the entire movie. So, Rebecca, why don't you kick us off with the synopsis of the movie?
Sure. So we've all seen this trope before. I'm pretty sure in after-school cartoons, really, where a character who doesn't feel very beautiful or confident ends up, writing like letters or sending messages and getting the love interest to fall in love with their soul, not knowing what they really look like. Mm-hmm. So that is the overarching conflict of this movie. Mm-hmm. So this musical movie, Cyrano, it initially was on Broadway as an off-Broadway musical, I think maybe 2019. And it's based off of a famous play called Cyrano de Bergerac.
Is that the original?
That's the original.
Okay, gotcha.
And in the original, the Cyrano character, actually his insecurity is he has a large nose.
Oh, okay.
That is his quote-unquote fatal flaw, that he's convinced that the love interest cannot find him attractive because he has a large nose.
Interesting, okay.
So
that's a little different than what we watched.
A little different. So in this version, Peter Dinklage stars as Cyrano. So really his character is very similar to Tyrion Lannister, although he's much more noble. Mm-hmm. But he is a fantastic soldier. He's witty. He's clever. He's actually devastatingly romantic.
Hopelessly romantic, almost.
But his insecurity is his height, and he doesn't believe that the woman that he's in love with, who's a noble woman, could ever see past that to see him, as a husband, to see him as someone that she could fall in love with. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of this movie, this woman, Roxanne, she ends up falling in love with this beautiful new soldier who's recruited into the army, at a distance.
Yeah, his name is Christian.
But unfortunately for her, which she doesn't know, Christian is not quick-witted.
Not at all.
He's not good with words. He's not poetic. He is... Why are the pretty ones always so dumb?
He's definitely a pretty boy, yep.
So Cyrano, hearing of her love for him, decides to help Christian by writing Christian letters that he can sign his name to, beautiful love letters that make Roxanne fall in love with him further. But really, she's falling in love with the clever mind he possesses that he does not.
Yes, correct. The clever mind that is provided by Cyrano.
So it's a gigantic, unrequited love triangle.
Yes, a big love triangle.
With great songs.
With amazing songs. So, speaking of amazing songs, let's just transition right from there into our spoiler-free thoughts. So, I just want to start off by saying that I feel like this movie is just like the same camp as the Wicked movies that just recently came out, because the Wicked movies, barring the cinematic choices of it, I believe are a fantastic representation of a musical in cinematic form. In the same way, Cyrano,
I agree,
very much feels like a musical in cinematic form. They still take advantage of editing and all that kind of good stuff you get when you don't have to necessarily do it live per se, but the way it's shot, the way it's filmed, the way it's scened, it feels like a musical.
Yeah, the cinematography is gorgeous.
Yes.
It feels like, again, we just rewatched this, and we've watched this probably a couple of times a year since it came out, but I feel like it's almost filmed like a painting.
It really is. And Italy, you said this was filmed in Italy, correct?
Right, the story takes place in France, but they were like, close enough, Italy.
Italy, close enough. But Italy is just beautiful in this film. It creates, like you said, picturesque backgrounds and picturesque scenes for everybody to operate in.
Just the romantic town and the spooky, cavernous walkways at night and candlelit rooms and the frescoes.
Yes.
But even some of this, the effects of the cinematography are very cool, where, the movie opens up and Roxanne is in her carriage and she's singing about how she wants to find true love. And behind her, as she's singing, you see different people in the town just dancing. And this is clearly in her mind. She's imagining this. And there's this one scene where this couple is dancing, and the female dancer just like floats up into the air.
Yeah, it definitely takes into the liberties that typical stage musicals take liberties to, where everybody is, dancing and maybe not doing things they would necessarily do as like an actor or a real person in this scenario.
The suspension of disbelief.
Exactly. There's that suspension of disbelief for the musical numbers in this movie. And I'm glad we're still harping on the cinematography on this, because one thing I noticed, especially this time around, was the directors really let the scenes play out, and I really appreciate that. In a day where editing is so heavy in our movies, like it's
quick.
It's cut. There's like seconds between each cut. This movie has bits and pieces of that, but for the most part, it's usually just a camera pan or a dolly move or a punch in slowly. It's all very long-winded scenes where the actors have to rehearse sometimes minutes of lines because the scene is still going from the same perspective the whole time.
Right.
And it just really improves the value of the movie adaptation.
Yeah. The pacing of this movie is genius, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's over 2 hours. And I genuinely don't feel that.
When you said that, I didn't know how long the runtime was, but when you said that, I was like, there's no way. It's like an hour and a half movie.
No, it's over 2.
Wow.
And I never feel the runtime until the last scene, which we'll go into in spoilers. There's something about the pacing that's just genius, because I feel like on the one hand, they're letting everything marinate and play out, that you have a chance to figure out what's happening. But it also doesn't feel bloated or slow or unnecessary, that the plot points really do come like bam, bam, bam. Characters mean I'm in love, this happens, that there isn't unnecessary filler. There's no padding in this.
Yes.
There's not a lot of padding in this.
Yeah.
Which I think is impressive for a long musical with not that many songs.
No, not a ton of songs. And likewise, like you said, the plot points come fast and furious. The songs come fast and furious as well. Some of them are almost back to back. Now, this is not a rock opera. It's not entirely musical. There are very much a lot of spoken lines in this movie, but there are a lot of songs crammed into this movie.
Yeah. I just feel like this movie is a marvel. Something else that really stuck out to me, again, upon rewatching, is how seamless the choreography is. And the older I get, the more I feel like I'm gravitating towards musicals that aren't, this is a dance break. And I love that they just happen in the scene.
Yes.
There's just the soldiers just dancing in the barracks, and for some reason,
also singing.
And you're like, oh yeah, absolutely. And
yes.
Everything is just so beautiful. I keep saying like a painting. This movie is like a painting, and everything just seems to make sense in it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And if I could hit on the music a little more, the songs here are all really catchy. There's like one or two maybe that I would say are not my favorites, but the rest of them all are fantastic.
Yeah.
And understand that if you are someone who needs a lot of high structure in your music, this movie might bother you a little bit, because a lot of the lyrics are a-tempo, in that they don't really follow traditional tempos. They are almost slam poetry. The syllables and the rhyme scheme do not line up at all times in these songs.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of lines that don't rhyme. They aren't perfect.
Right. Or there are syllables that just kind of drag on. You're like, oh, there's too many syllables in this line. Well, no, that's just part of how the song is. And it works with the music. But
because every song has that.
Exactly. But it is very a-tempo sometimes in these songs.
Yeah. On the topic of music, I want to say, and I'll be very interested in spoilers to hear what songs you don't like, because I don't think there's any song I don't like, except maybe the villain song.
That's the one. That's the one.
Okay. Well, before we dive into that, I want to say I feel like this movie is a masterclass also in when to not use music. Because this like beautiful score is really like the current, under almost every scene, but there's a couple of very impactful or high tension scenes that the music just cuts, and it doesn't feel stark. It feels like, oh my goodness, this is so important that I got to turn the radio off so I can,
so you can
concentrate on where I'm driving to.
Right.
And I can't think of any music that would be appropriate underneath a couple of these like very like tragic moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's really devastating because I don't think this movie did very well in the theaters and in the box office.
It also came out during a bad time.
Yeah, during 2021, it was not a great time for going to the movie theaters.
Mm-hmm. I think we saw it early 2022, but it was technically released like holidays, but nobody knew.
Maybe they gave it, a little bit longer of a run because there's just no movies coming out, so.
I only knew it was coming out because of a YouTube ad, so thank you, YouTube.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I heard no other souls talking about it, and then we saw it and loved it, and I've been like blabbing about it, but most people don't know what we're talking about.
It's true, most people do not know what we're talking about. So yeah, really underrated movie that did not make big waves in the movie space. And so that's a crime and that's a tragedy. And so hopefully with our spoiler-free review, we've really enticed you guys to go and see it. So we would strongly recommend you check it out. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. We have it on DVD.
Yeah, because I'm a dork and I like physical copies.
Nah, physical copies are coming back. I'm all about them for sure. But try to find out if it's streaming anywhere. If you can't, the DVD is probably relatively cheap. I still would think it's probably worth a purchase at that point in time.
Yeah.
If you like musical movies.
It's the best new musical movie I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, right. Barring Wicked, obviously.
Barring Wicked, but like new to me.
Yeah, right, yeah. Right, yeah, you know the story of Wicked, yeah, exactly. Whereas Cyrano was new to both of us because we'd never seen it before. But anyway, with that, we are going to transition into the spoiler version of our review. So if you want to check out this movie totally spoiler-free.
And you should.
And you should. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe before you leave. But then go out and just enjoy yourself a nice musical movie. And we'll be back with spoilers. All right, and we're back. This is the spoiler section of our review, so you have been warned. Becca, kick us off. What are some spoiler thoughts you got on this movie?
Well, the biggest spoiler that I can think of, and something that I have actually warned people of in a spoiler-free fashion, is that people should know that the third act of this movie is really bleak.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That the movie's plugging along, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It is period costumes and dancing and candlelit rooms and piano music and noblemen and women going to the theater, and then suddenly it is bleak war. All these men are dying and starving to death, and they are marching to their doom.
It's a major plot point. It's necessary for the plot, but
it's necessary for the plot, but I think that is something that, well, now that we're in spoiler territory, this happens because Roxanne has another unwanted love interest. This Duke.
Right.
The Duke Nagish.
I think that's his name, yeah.
Insert French word here. Anyways,
he'll be on the screen with the correct spelling.
He's the villain of the movie because he is this gross, lecherous nobleman who just thinks that he can force Roxanne into marriage because he's powerful. And in a way that he can.
Yeah, right.
And whenever she officially rejects his love by marrying Christian under his nose, he takes revenge by sending Christian, Cyrano, and the entire regiment, City Guard, to the front lines of the war that is happening.
Right.
And you open up on the scene, and gosh, it's just, you know that like nobody's making it out, or if they're making it out, they're not making it out in like whole body and mind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's important.
Good portrayal because war is bleak. War is awful.
And it is important to the plot, but it is a little whiplashy, I think, for somebody who's not prepared. I think even seeing it in theaters that I wasn't prepared, that you're watching this Phantom of the Opera-esque, beautiful, artistic musical, and then it's like, bam, death.
Yeah.
And cold. And men writing their last letters to their family to say, I'm not coming home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not nearly as dissonant to me. It doesn't bother me, I guess, as much.
Like, it bothers me enough that as much as I love this movie, I do have to be in a certain mood to watch it. I have to know that it's not going to end happily, and it's going to take a hard ride into reality.
Yeah, and the song Heaven is Wherever I Fall is one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack, so I don't mind the war scene nearly
I mean,
as much.
it's gorgeous. I appreciate it.
It's a sad song, but I like it.
It's just something that I wouldn't have somebody watch on a bad day.
Sure.
I wouldn't recommend this movie for somebody who is in a low place
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yep.
in their mind and in their soul.
Yeah. So you were talking about in the spoiler-free section, there was a scene that you thought drug out towards the end. Can you explain that to me and why you think it drags out?
So the last scene between Cyrano and Roxanne. So at this point, it seems that Cyrano is one of the few men who survived that last massacre. That he has survived, but it seems like he might have tuberculosis, like he's coughing up blood, he's not eating well, he can barely walk.
Yeah, he suffered a wound, and so he's probably still suffering from that, I imagine, because the medicine's not as good back then.
Right, I mean, what was medicine? Like a hot compress?
Leeches.
So anyway, Cyrano is talking to Roxanne, who it seems like she's decided to live in a convent as she's become a widow because Christian was killed in the last battle.
Yep.
And obviously the scene is building up is that Cyrano is finally going to confess that he was the one who wrote the letters all along, that because he was too afraid to tell her, she ended up marrying the wrong guy.
Right,
and
yeah.
also formally confessing his love. And it comes out whenever he asks Roxanne to give her, oh, can I read Christian's last letter to you that he sent from the front?
Right.
And he starts to read it and then recite it from memory.
Right, yep.
And I do love this scene. I do think that it's paced well, but I think that's the only scene that I feel like is almost a little too realistically paced.
Okay.
That's the only scene that I feel like it drags a bit. And maybe it's because maybe I'm impatient for the tragedy to happen. And I'm like, well, I know, because I've seen this movie, that he is going to die. He is going to finally admit to Roxanne that he loves her, but really his pride was getting in the way of them ever having a chance for their entire lives.
Right, yeah.
Maybe that's just me impatient for that just to happen, because I'm like, I know it's sad, whatever, Rose let go of Jack so I can move on.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a little slow.
Yeah. See,
just that exchange.
Yeah, I think that for me it's more the lead up to that part, which kind of agrees with you a little bit. I think establishing the scene of the convent with the two nuns kind of bantering back and forth, that's a little unnecessary. Like they get some like dialogue in there to set more character development for Cyrano, but and then Cyrano's reciting of the comedic newspaper headlines to her or whatever. Like I get you're trying to convey that like they're still friends, but
And also he's being avoidant.
And he's being avoidant. Yeah, I get that. It just seems a little drug out to me, but I don't know. So I agree with you just on a different aspect of, of that scene.
That's like the only scene that I feel like it could have been trimmed just a tad.
Right, yeah, exactly. And then going back to music, I think that, the villain song is probably one of the only songs that I don't like on this soundtrack. And
I think we skip it. Like, we generally skip it one way.
It's okay. I like that it's a bass song just because I'm a bass, but it's not.
The bass songs always suck.
It's not the most interesting song. Well, I would say Why Do We Build a Wall from Hadestown is not a bad bass song.
Let's say most of the times the bass songs are not the bops.
Yeah, well, our range is pretty limited, so I mean, I guess I kind of get it. But so the villain song's okay, but the rest of the songs all have a place on a playlist in my opinion. So I have a question for our viewers, and I'll be curious to see if we get any comments on this, but in the battle scene, after it has finally come out to Christian that Cyrano has been secretly writing to Roxanne behind her back.
Because he loves her.
Because he loves her, exactly. Christian, I'm not sure if he goes mad with grief, or if he's hallucinating, or if it's a symbolic reference to him dying in the war, but Christian kind of just abandons the entire formation of the army lines, at least visually, and then climbs over the hill and gets shot immediately. And you and I were asking, does he hallucinate this? Is it imagery?
Is this suicide?
Is it suicide?
Because right before it happens, he says to Cyrano, when he realizes that Cyrano only agreed to help him because he was secretly in love with Roxanne, he says, he alludes to the fact that if we survive this, we need to open up to her, tell her exactly what's going on, and she will choose between us. And I only want to be chosen if she loves me for me.
Right.
And then he just runs into gunfire.
Yeah. So we have our opinions on that. I don't know if we'll share them here, but if anybody else has opinions on that, I would love to read those in the comments. So please leave us a comment on what you think the correct interpretation of that.
Yeah, help us.
Is. Yeah, exactly.
Before we wrap it up, I have a question for you.
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
So, do you think Cyrano mentions throughout the entire movie that he can't let Roxanne know how he feels because she might reject him and it would just crush this beautiful dream he had. Like, he can't. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it wasn't only his pride, but also his desire maybe to keep her on the pedestal?
Yeah.
Do you think that was also something that he didn't want to let go of? That, again, they reference that their country has been at war for almost his entire life and Roxanne's entire life. And was there a part of him that didn't want to risk knowing the truth because that would be like finding out Santa Claus isn't real?
Basically.
Like, he wanted to hold on to this perfect dream.
Yes.
Because really nobody's a perfect dream. Even if he married Roxanne, he would find out that, she doesn't look beautiful at all times.
Yeah.
She has bad days.
He was in love with the idea of her more than actually her. I mean, that's quite frankly what it comes down to. Yeah. He was in love with the idea of her. And maybe he really truly would have loved her for who she was, but he had this image of her and he didn't want it to be ruined. And so he just was more in love with the idea of her and not her with potentially any flaws.
Right. And additionally, couldn't take the blow
to his pride.
Of rejection.
Exactly.
But that was something that was running through my mind where he had said in multiple, much more eloquent ways than I'm saying, I don't want to ruin this perfect dream.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, guys, I mean, it should be pretty obvious by how emphatically we're talking about this movie. This is one you definitely have to somehow find a way to see if you like musical movies. That's the only caveat I can put on this. I think the music's fantastic, the visuals are fantastic, the story is fantastic. Mm-hmm. This is a big, big, big thumbs up from me.
Absolutely. It's heartbreaking in all the best ways.
Yes.
It is visually stunning. It's so unlike any other musical movie I've seen, or I think any musical I've seen.
Sure.
I think it's so special, and I want more people to love it as much as we do. So for me, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I want to see this definitely in a theater of some kind as a musical. I think that would be a ton of fun. So for me, it is an 8.75, I think.
8.75?
Yeah. No, that's not fair. No, let's bump it up to a 9. I'll make it a 9. It's a 9. Yeah, for sure. Your judgy look convinced me otherwise.
Well, I think that's enough gushing for one night, but Cyrano's fabulous. We really hope you guys get a chance to see it. And thanks to everyone who stuck around till the end. You are the real ones. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to check out another review, watch our last one on Avatar, a much different movie.
Much, much different.
A much longer movie.
Significantly.
But something else we enjoyed.
Yes.
So if you liked this review, maybe take a click over there.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.